to Bodacious Estate Conversations, the podcast where we skip the polite small talk and get straight to the real story about handling a loved one's property. From unexpected challenges to the messy emotions nobody warns you about, I bring you unfiltered stories, practical advice, and clever shortcuts from people who've been there and the professionals who know the way. If you want honest answers, bold strategies, and the confidence to take control, you're in the right place. Here is your host, Casey King.
Well, thanks for tuning in. On today's episode of Bodacious Estate Conversations, I'm so excited to chat with our guest, who brings nearly 40 years of experience in social work and recent years helped families navigate challenges of aging at Palumbo Associates. She's currently the director of life care planning, leading a team of highly trained master-level social workers who work with families through one of the most overwhelming periods in their lives. Her team supports everything from long-term planning and crisis navigation to medical advocacy and caregiving coordination. Outside of work, she's a pianist who taught since the age of 16, a mother and a proud grandparent. Let's give a warm welcome to Meg Motter. Meg, I'm so thrilled to have you on Bodacious Estate Conversations. Today, we're talking about something every family needs to understand before a crisis hits: why planning early can spare families from panic, prevent costly mistakes, and make aging safer and more dignified. Stick around until the end, because Meg is going to share the single most important warning signs that tells you a loved one is headed towards crisis and what to do before it happens. All right, Meg, let's dig right into it. You have so much experience supporting families through aging and long-term care. What's the number one challenge families face when they wait too long to plan?
The time, because everything's hurried, and it makes it all the more difficult to make decisions because people are emotional and they're stressed out and they see the clock ticking, and time is money when you don't plan well in advance, and we scramble to educate and help them. So that's the biggest hurdle.
So if you could give advice to somebody that's like maybe thinking about reaching, like they're not sure if this is something that they should be planning for, what would your advice be?
My advice is, when we are 30 and 40 years old, we should be thinking about, what do I want my retirement years to look like? When we have kids that are old enough, maybe teenagers, we should be talking about that. Here's my vision. Here's what I hope to achieve, so that the adult children eventually, when they become adults, they know what mom and dad's wishes are. I just met with a couple of adult kids this week. They really have no idea. So when you're in your 60s, that's when you should be planning. But before that, well before that, thinking about it.
Yeah, it's so true. Not having a plan really kind of puts all of your loved ones at the shrug of the shoulders. Like, we're not sure what the right way to go is because it wasn't planned in advance.
Yeah.
So obviously that's like the way to prevent panic is to plan ahead. In your case, you also handle crises. So you're there, like if the planning didn't happen, you're still there to be an advocate. So what does that look like? Like, can you share a real life scenario that you and your team handled?
Yeah, ideally for life care planning, the model that we operate under, which is a national model in some elder law firms, the ideal is that you come well before you need crisis planning, and we get to know you. And we do have some people on our caseload that are those people, that they are healthy, they're well, and they have us sort of in their back pocket for when something happens. But it is much more often the case that I'll get a referral and a request to call a family to figure out if life care planning is something that could help them when they're in a crisis. Mom's in the hospital, or dad has just gotten the notice at rehab that the days of care under Medicare are ending. We can't always help in the way we'd like to in those situations because there's a lot
Right.
of push to get the person out of the hospital. But if we can, we will hustle and do what we can, certainly to reassure and educate. I mean, that sometimes that's the differentiator. In my first phone call, by the end, they're saying, "Oh my gosh, I feel so much better having just talked to you." And that's even before we start the journey of meeting them and really getting to work. But sometimes it's just information that makes a big
Mhm.
difference.
Yeah, a lot of people don't. I mean, well, obviously, you don't know what you don't know, but there's a lot that our community has to offer that people just aren't aware of.
Yes. And that's my expertise. I often use the analogy of when we built our house. Now, we didn't build it, we had a contractor. But every day it seemed like, and this is many, many years ago, they were asking, like, how do you want the sidewalk to be? And what kind of light do you want on the front porch? I'd never thought of those things. Like, who ever
Yeah.
thinks of those things? They do. So, just like for me, I can tell you all sorts of stuff about nursing facilities and assisted living and all the things about aging, but the average person, isn't going to know all those things.
Yeah, so true. So after the information is given and somebody's ready to actually sit down and create a plan with you, what should they expect from you and your team?
Yeah, great question. The Another call I had this week was about a woman who was doing very well. She was in assisted living in getting secure dementia care, a memory care setting, and she fell a couple of times and hospitalized, and now they're talking end of life and hospice, and the family was just blindsided by that.
Oh my gosh.
So when we begin to get involved with that family, we are going to do an initial assessment in the person's home or the setting that they're living in at that time. In this lady's case, it would be the assisted living facility. Get as much information as we can, help them to put the hospice team in place, help educate them about hospice, and do all the immediate urgent things. And
Yeah,
then once stabilized, let's say that this lady stabilizes, which is often the case. Things look dire. And then once hospice gets in place, things stabilize. And sometimes people graduate from that program,
huh,
graduate. So in that case, ours is a 1-year contract. It's renewable. Most of our families do renew for the second and subsequent years. But our job in that story then would be to come alongside the family, be emotional support, be advocates at the assisted living, help problem solve why two falls. It's not uncommon, but we
mhm,
would do our due diligence to figure out what was the circumstance where mom fell and help the team develop best practice or recommend something like occupational therapy to help
yeah,
make the situation safer. And then just be there for that whole year, as a resource to the client, but as much an equal, sometimes even more, to the family that's the
yeah.
ones that are so stressed.
Yeah, I mean, surely that's an emotional state, and obviously stressful, especially, not only are you worried about your loved one who's going through this, and you're thinking about all of the possibilities. And normally it's negative because we're human and that's what we do. We go to the negative thoughts
Mhm.
first, but also, the monetary stress that comes along with that. I mean, it's a lot to think about when you come into those situations.
Yeah. A lot of adult children assume that Medicare pays for anything you need. And that absolutely is not the case. It pays
Yeah.
very limited things. And that's the reason we have to really plan and be strategic because very few people I know, even including on our caseload, have the ability to write a check for $8,000, $10,000, $17,000 every month.
Uh,
So we have to look at resources and we have to look at the available plans like veterans aid and attendance and all the things to help families develop a plan that helps them get their needs met, but financially is sustainable and doesn't wipe them out, especially if there's a healthy spouse.
right. What about for folks that maybe don't have any family in the area? How do you advocate for those people?
I love that question because some of our most wonderful hires have been persons that are family members living out of state who are
Mhm.
the POA, are the decision makers, but feel as if they are blind to what's really going on and they're sort of entrusting whatever the facility or the doctor or the caregivers that are in the home are telling them. So when I talk to someone in that situation, I say, listen, we can be the boots on the ground for you. We can be the eyes and the ears. And when I call the brother in, let's say, New Hampshire, when I call him, he is going to know Meg's telling him exactly what she's seeing and
Yeah.
is not sugarcoating it, is not misrepresenting it.
Mhm.
And it's a game changer for these out of area family members. We have a lot of them, and it's a real great add on for them because they can't be there all the time.
Yeah. So, along with the planning process and the ongoing education that you are able to provide to folks and being the boots on the ground, like you said, what are other things that you can do to help kind of navigate through the medical systems?
Yeah. That is more than ever one of the biggest things we do, and that's a post-pandemic reality. It has gotten better, but the advocacy is a significant part of what we do.
Mm.
And helping the fragmentation. I often hear stories of, okay, I had my surgery, but the surgeon won't talk to me because he says I'm done my part. He tells me to go to the discharge planner. The discharge planner says, well, I can't help you because I'm waiting for this, that, and the other. And
Ah,
the whole system becomes so fragmented that the person that's experiencing that and their family, they feel like they're getting no information. So
yeah.
we are often standing in that gap and talking to the professionals in whatever that healthcare system is, and when necessary, pushing if something is going wrong or if something is not being done that needs to be done. But that's a lot of what we do because many elders do have medical issues and doctors' appointments that they need advocacy for. We don't always go to medical appointments, but when needed, we'll go, we'll be the scribe, take notes, call the family after, fill them in, ask the hard questions like maybe it's time to talk about hospice. And
Right.
often a family won't do that themselves, but if we're there and able, we'll do that. And then that opens the door of that wonderful conversation about here's this whole additional support team you could have that you were just afraid to ask about.
Yeah, that's great. And so throughout this conversation, I know we've been talking about like elders and dementia and that side, but you also help younger folks, maybe with disabilities too, right?
Yes. The age for our program is you must be 18 or older. We have had persons in their 30s. Currently, our youngest is about 44 years old,
Okay.
certainly with lifelong disability. And we help in a lot of different ways with those folks that either need placement or are already in placement or at home with aging parents who want our help to develop what's the plan when I'm no longer
Right.
living. And more importantly, when I'm no longer living, I want your team to be the advocate that knows my person and is in the story moving forward. So that's a big deal. Our oldest client was a year or so ago, almost 100. He died 1 month before his 100th birthday. And I tell the
Oh,
story often. He is a dear, dear soul. And we were planning a party at the nursing facility where he was living, and he wanted steak and bourbon. And with permission, we were going to bring him steak and bourbon, like little bottle.
yeah.
But he died a month before his 100th birthday. So great story. We ended up going anyway without the bourbon, and we had a lovely, lovely event with his roommate at the nursing facility, the roommate's family member, and then the family of the gentleman that was our client that died. And it was sort of a time when we just reminisced
Yeah.
and just supported this gentleman who was the roommate that was also grieving. So runs the gamut. Currently, let's see, a couple of days ago, our oldest client turned 96, and she just recently moved from living independently to an assisted living. She was living independently up until 95 years old. So we have everyone in between, but that's the lowest and the highest.
That's awesome. Yeah, I joke with my husband all the time. Well, like half joke because I am half serious that I'm going to live to be 120. So I have to,
Nice. Give
yeah,
him
like
my card because you'll probably need a life care plan by then.
it's true.
Of
It's
course, I
true.
will be long dead by then, but someone will be in my stead.
Yeah. I'll be working with your team for sure.
That's
So,
awesome.
so successful outcomes of having advocates in place, like what does, I don't know, like I want to tread lightly when I ask this because I kind of want to know what it would look like if we didn't have an advocate,
Mhm.
like I'm imagining that there would be a lot of confusion and frustration versus having somebody that kind of can lead you through the path. Um, but I don't want to tell a story for you, but that's what I'm envisioning. So like what would a successful outcome like? Are you alleviating frustration from not only the client but the family members? Is it monitor like I'm just trying to wrap my head around that. So what would you consider a successful outcome?
Well, a successful outcome is different for every different story. And it's one of the hardest things to explain what we do in a way that people can really grasp is very difficult because what I do for your grandmother is really different than what I do for somebody else's mom. It
Right.
is totally dependent on what their goals and wishes are. So a successful outcome would be we achieve the goal that the client, if they're able to state their goal, or the family member identifies as what they're hoping to achieve.
Yeah.
Another successful outcome in my mind is always when we're able to stretch their dollars. Our program is expensive, absolutely has a price to it that is daunting for some, but if we're doing our job correctly and we're working with your financial planner, and we're working with attorney Belomo and the elder law aspect, and we're looking at placement or looking at services that help stretch your dollars, then that's a hugely successful outcome because that's usually one of the key stressors is money. Am I going to run out
Yeah.
of money? So we work very hard to sort of plan in advance and sit with the attorney, the financial planner, the family, the client at least once or twice a year to sort of plan out and look and project what is it going to look like 5 years from now, 1 year from now, a decade from now. So a big
Yeah.
successful outcome if I can save my person money.
For sure. That is such a huge aspect. I didn't realize how much assisted living cost. I had no idea what the price tag was until my grandmother went in, but it makes sense. I mean, there's overhead, there's medical care there on site, food and just laundry, cleaning, everything that comes along with that. So it makes sense why it costs what it does. It's just not something you think about until you're in the situation.
Right. And I can share a couple of specific stories. One very recently where Danielle, one of our three social workers, she was tenacious in calling a facility in Lancaster County area that the family wanted. The client was at another facility farther away and had been there for rehab, shifted to long-term care, but the family was unsuccessful at getting the facility of choice to really respond and give them a chance to say, we'd like to come here. Danielle was tenacious, and that person is now living in the facility of choice, much to the delight of the family.
So awesome.
So I honestly, I was probably the doubting Thomas the most of the team, saying, "You're never going to pull that off, Danielle," and she did. So
That's so cool.
things like that are just a tremendous gift when we are able to be part of that, and we definitely celebrate wins at Belomo, and every Monday everybody shares a professional or personal win. That was a big, huge professional win that week for sure.
Absolutely. So speaking about your team, I mean, you have master level social workers on your team. So tell me a little bit about the training and the experience that goes into bringing them on board.
Yeah. Well, in elder law firms that have life care planning, you don't necessarily see a social worker. You often do. But in ours, because I am a licensed social worker, I'm an LCSW, which is the highest credential that you can have. So I am a master's level social worker, but with clinical additional years of work that allowed me to become an LCSW. I favor social workers, not gonna lie. A nurse could do this job. Someone that's worked in a dementia setting or any kind of elder-oriented service industry could do this. But in our firm, we have 3 licensed master's level social workers. We're learning about resources, we're learning about advocacy, but one of the biggest things is we're learning as we're studying how to intervene with families. Family systems are complicated,
Hmm.
and there's often difficult dynamics between husband, wife, parent, child, siblings.
Yeah.
And we don't really advertise as we're being therapists, but that's often where we land. So having that clinical expertise is a game changer for families when we can kind of bring people together and help them achieve the most important goal and do it civilly without a lot of heartache and pain. So that's the biggest. Knowing resources, the 3 of us together, Ashley, Danielle, myself, we are a force to be reckoned with. Alone, we are not nearly as strong as when our 3 brains go, okay, what do you know? What might this person be able to use? And then we have these meetings where we go, and we come up with things every week. I learn a new resource. So that's really a big part of the training and expertise is our brains. They tease me about the Meg brain. It's in the Meg brain. Often it is. But it's really triple the resource knowledge because of having 3 of us that have done different things in our careers and know different people. And we work really hard at Bolomo to know people like yourself so that we can always have resources that we highly recommend because people are often asking us. So that's
Yeah.
part of the expertise is just being resource experts.
Yep. I 100% agree. I mean, I have the same thing in in my line of work. I need to have plumbers and electricians and attorneys on standby that I can refer those folks to.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah,
And social workers, right?
absolutely. Absolutely. So that's the power of a team, and I love the brainstorming aspect of coming up with not just a resource, but the right resource for that person's immediate need. So
Yes.
that's perfect. Now we touched on education, ongoing education. You guys have regular workshops that you have out for the community, right?
We do. In Bellomo and Associates, it is all about education, and that's from Jeff's testimony of his personal experience with his mom. He is determined for you to have the knowledge that you need. So that spills over into the life care planning program, where we have a workshop that we do that helps you understand the system, what the differences are between personal care, assisted living, skilled nursing, Medicare, Medicaid, all the things. And so that workshop happens regularly. We also have it recorded for people that can't come in person to a workshop. And the same with Medicaid. We have Medicaid workshops and probate workshops. So we can help you, but we really mostly want you to be educated and know what you need to know on these topics that we typically don't even think of until it's right in our face and we need that kind of expertise. So
Yeah.
education always. Workshops, come to every single one you can get to.
Yep. I love that. I've been to Jeff's boot camp for professionals, and I've learned so much. A lot of the clients that I work with are in probate or executors or power of attorneys, and being able to not that I'm giving legal advice, but the information that I got from the boot camp, I was able to relate back to my clients, and it's phenomenal
Yeah, the
information.
boot camp is a highlight of the year.
Yeah,
Realtors, financial planners, healthcare professionals, you name it, professionals come and learn free all day long. They walk away with a binder that you probably have on your shelf somewhere in that
I do.
office.
It's right here.
And it's
Actually.
it's we get very consistent feedback that it's
Yeah.
there. It is. That's awesome. Good job. Well done. So
Within
that's
arm's
a
reach.
pillar thing that we do. We want to meet professionals, but we want them to kind of know what they need to know so that they're not at a loss when their people, your customers, financial planners, clients, ask them questions. We want them to be able to answer those questions, or at least say, let me check my binder, or let me call Jeff Belomo.
Yep. Yeah. So cool. I mean, what you guys are doing, it's huge for our community. I I think when we first met, you were kind of explaining your role and how you advocate for your clients, and I was like, I've never even heard of this, but like I didn't even know it was available as an option. I just think it's amazing what the work that you guys are doing.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. The heritage of life care planning is a couple of gentlemen in different parts of the country 25 years ago realized every client practically that's coming in my door to get documents and do a trust and do Medicaid and asset protection is asking me questions that I can't answer. And so those two gentlemen, independent of one another, started a life care planning program where someone like a Meg or an Ashley or Danielle came on board and sort of held the hand of those families. And the attorney could just say, let me put you in touch with my life care planning person. And there are a number of those firms throughout the country now. It's a no-brainer now. We look back on it and go, of course, elder law, people are coming with reasons. Dad had a stroke, mom fell, mom has dementia. So it is a perfect match to be an elder law firm and have a social work type program.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense to be under the same roof.
Yep.
Yeah. So the workshops that are available, this is probably going to air in the spring sometime. So if the folks listening wanted to see when the next workshop would be available, where would they go?
The easiest thing to do is to either call our main number for Belomo and Associates and simply ask the person that answers the phone, I'm interested in the workshops, or go to the Belomo website, and pretty easy to navigate. You can go and sign up right there, but whatever's most comfortable for the individual.
Very cool. Well, thanks. Okay. So amazing information, very insightful. Let's kind of switch gears a little bit and talk about you. So where did you grow up? Were you always from York County?
Not at all. I grew up in Harford County, Maryland. I went to college in Carroll County, Maryland. I met a Carroll County boy at age 18 who was 27, and he grew up coming to Hanover every Friday evening to go to the Victory restaurant and do the grocery shopping with his family of origin. So a couple of years into our marriage, we moved to Hanover. And 5 years ago, for the first time in my career, I stopped working in Maryland and started working for Belomo and Associates. So I am not a York County girl, but I have 3 adult children, all of whom live in York, the York area. So I feel like I've been a Pennsylvania resident long enough to say I'm from Pennsylvania, but I know that's a big issue for some. So born and raised in Maryland, but have been a Pennsylvanian for goodness, nearly 40 years, I guess.
Nice. That's awesome. So Hanover is that's where my office is. It's where I reside. I just love Hanover so much. So Jeff's office is in York though. So how did you get connected with Jeff?
Well, he has 2 offices. One's York, one's Lancaster. We serve the whole state because they're licensed attorneys in the state of Pennsylvania. we don't in life care planning. We have a 100-mile radius for our program from both those offices, York and Lancaster. So I came to know Jeff. He has one child. Her name is Deanna. And when she was a little girl, she was a ballerina. And she had a favorite teacher whose name was Miss Jenna Motter, who is my middle child. So I've known Jeff a long time and been teasing him for years. Jeff, when are you going to hire a social worker? And we're talking 10, 12 plus years ago. And I think he didn't really even know what would a social worker do. So we just would banter around about it. And then I left my job in hospice down in Maryland. It was year 2 of the pandemic, approaching year 2. Most incredible privilege of my career to be a hospice facility-based social worker during the pandemic, but the hardest of my career. And I just couldn't keep it going, especially as a person that was sort of inching up to the 60-year-old bracket. So I was exhausted, resigned, gave notice, called my daughter, told her I had resigned. And within minutes, I get a call with Jeff offering me a position as the starter upper of the life care planning program at Belomo and Associates. So since April, 5 years ago, it'll be in April, it'll be 5 years that we have done life care planning here. And the rest is history. So Deanna's moved on. She's not a ballerina. Jenna's moved on. Jenna actually one day was enticed by Jeff Belomo to come work in his elder law firm. She came as an intern, and now all these years later, she is our law firm leader. She's my boss. So my day job boss is my daughter.
I love that.
Seems to work out.
So you said your middle child. How many children do you have?
I have 3. My son is my oldest, and Jenna is my middle, and my youngest is Julie Ann. She also works at the law firm. She is our person that does all things scanning and copying and organizing binders like yours. And she is getting married soon. So our family is expanding.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I know you have one grandbaby already, right?
I do. Jenna had a baby in October of 24, and she is the light of all of our lives. She is very blessed to have all of the babysitters throughout the week. One day is her grandpa, one day is me, Lala, and then a day is split between Uncle Jordan and Auntie Julianne. So we are very much a weekly part of her life, and she is just a gem.
That's so cool. Yeah. I don't think most children at least at a young age see their aunties and uncles every week. So that's a blessing.
It is really, it's been a little over a year and a few months. It's a privilege. I mean, it's just such a blessing to know that this little gal is going to grow up with relationship with aunt and uncle and family that is really deep and rich and wide and all the wonderful things.
Yeah. Yep. Now, we didn't talk about this, but you have been a pianist for a very, very long time. So do you think your granddaughter is going to grow up to play?
Well, I can't imagine that she won't. She gets a lot of exposure to music. My husband is a musician. I am. Her Uncle Jordan is. Her Auntie Julianne is. Her mom is, sort of was. She was into music very much, but has different interests now. But there's a lot of music in our lives. So I can't imagine a world where little Miss Stevie Rain would not be taking music lessons from someone.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So when did you start playing the piano? What age?
I was 8 years old.
Okay.
And I actually have a degree in piano performance. I got 2 bachelor's degrees in undergrad. One was social work and the other was piano performance. And I've taught students since I was 16. I still do so, not nearly as much as I used to, but I have a handful 3, 4, 5 students now that just bring me joy. Tend to be pickier and pick the ones that practice and are there all the time and respectful, but it's been a really important part of our family because it paid for all the lessons and gymnastics and ballet for my kids. The ability to be a teacher helped us fund all those things for them.
Yeah. So with everybody else in the family being musicians, do you have enough instruments to make a band?
I guess it would be a little bit of a clunky, awkward band, but yes, we could. It's not going to be the perfect brass quintet or the perfect string quartet, but we could pull off being a band for you. Yes.
I love that. So in your spare time, when you're not working or babysitting or teaching piano, what do you like to do?
Oh, goodness. I am a reader that never has time to read. So I do love to read. I love to be with friends. I have some dear friends that have been lifelong friends that have stood in the gap for me and would love to just go meet Diane and walk around the track at the Y. I tend to really focus a lot on work these days. So some of those
Yeah.
things don't happen, but random spontaneous dinner out with a friend that I don't see often is my idea of a good time. Would much rather one-on-one than big, huge groups anymore. I want that conversation and that dialogue.
Yeah, same. You get more out of it. I agree.
Yep.
Absolutely. What kind of genre do you like to read?
If I had to pick one, it would be historical
Oh,
fiction. So
okay.
kind of based in the history, but still fiction. But I'll read anything. My mother, who's 91, has always been obsessed with biographies and autobiographies.
Yeah.
And as I get older, I seem to be getting interested in that. So
Yeah.
I'll read anything, but historical fiction would probably be my favorite.
I love that. I tried to get my son when he was in like middle school, maybe just starting high school. He wanted to, well, he was into computers and he wanted to be a programmer. So I would get him biographies and autobiographies of people that made not just a living, but like, uber rich. I was like, if you could just take a percentage of what they did, like learn from what
Hmm.
they did in their life and just a small percentage, you'll be all right, kid.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Indeed. Reading
Oh,
is, I, I'm saddened, especially with piano students. You sort of see when it all shifts. It shifts when they get their first cell phone, and then they stop
oh,
coming to piano and having a book. They come with their cell phone and scroll. So my parental advice is don't ever give them the cell phone. Keep the books coming.
yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a good call. I think there were some recent studies released showing that it's probably good to delay that cell phone for as
Absolutely.
long as possible. Yeah.
Yeah. I see it in my living room. Every year a student kind of gets to that age, that middle schoolish, sometimes younger, but 11, 12, 13, things shift. You see changes for sure when the cell phone comes on the scene.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Uh, Luckily, my two bonus kids, they're not on their cell phones too much, so we kind of lucked out with them. But for most teenagers, that's all you see, the heads down, and they're just scrolling. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I'm old school. Probably could have been Amish in some other world. I'm not a fan of all the technology, but
That's
Little House on the Prairie days, that's when I'd like to be alive. Work hard and rest and be around
mhm, that's right. Yeah, I love that. So, that was an odd segue, but it reminded me that you told me that you homeschooled your 3 kids.
them. I did. It was a village approach because I worked at least part-time through all those years. But we homeschooled. We had observed a family in our church who homeschooled their 3 kids when I don't even know that Jordan was born then. I guess he was maybe 1. And I saw how close those 3 kids were to one another. And I wanted that for my kids. We also knew they'd be musicians. We also knew that they would try different sports and so forth. And we didn't want to never see our children. So we did homeschool. And gosh, what a privilege that is. That was an incredible thing. People say all the time, I could never do that. I could never do that. You can. It's so much easier now than it ever used to be because there's so many wonderful resources, but it allowed our kids to see each other. They are as close as you can imagine as adults. My son lives with my daughter and her husband and the granddaughter. They've done that for a number of years, and they are thick as thieves. They're just like the 3 musketeers.
That's so cool. Yeah, my siblings and I, we're not that close. Like, we don't talk on a super consistent basis, but when the 3 of us get together, I mean, it's like nonstop giggling. Like, we're just,
That's awesome.
reminiscing. And that's so cool.
Yeah. So there was a little bit of balance because they weren't in school all day. They were able to kind of consolidate their schoolwork, and then they'd go off to these 3 5-hour practices for ballet and gymnastics. And we still felt like there was balance. So it really was instrumental in allowing them to do all these extra things and us still feeling like we had family time.
For sure. Yeah. A lot of my clients talk about, well, like I asked you, what do you like to do in your spare time? Kind of, tongue in cheek, because you don't have a whole lot of spare time, but they're like, man, we're always running around to practice or a game or, quick shove some food in everybody's mouth and let's get back in the car. And like, wow, that seems like a lot, but I feel like your approach was, we're together during the day, we're learning together, and then, still being able to provide that and not feel like you never see your children. I think that was a great approach.
Yeah. I think the family that I sat behind in church each Sunday sort of lit the idea for me. I'd never thought I would do that. Of course, my son is 32. So this is a lot of years ago, and it was being done, but it wasn't nearly as robust as it is now. But I'm grateful for that because it really, I think my kids would say they're grateful for it. It allowed them to do so much more than they would have been able to do. And the closeness that I see in them it's a total gift. Yeah,
that's so awesome. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Meg. I appreciate you and everything that you and your team do. It's amazing that you're here and available in our community. And I'm so thankful for you sharing your knowledge today.
Thank you. Right back at you. I mean, you are always going the extra mile, and love that.
Oh, thank you. All right. Well, I know everybody's going to get a ton out of this episode with everything that you put down. So that wraps up another episode of Bodacious Estate Conversations. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back with more great stories and tips soon. Bye.
Bodacious Estate Conversations isn't just chatter. It's about learning, taking action, and finding solutions that actually work. If today's episode resonated, share your thoughts, subscribe, leave a review, and pass it along to someone who could use a hand. More stories, smart strategies, and practical guidance are coming in the next episode. Don't miss it.